Terrible.
Okay. Good morning. We have two of our commissioners online. Good morning, Mike and Anne Marie.
Good morning.
All here? Yes. Okay. So we are Friday, September 20th, Land Bank Commission meeting. And I will call the meeting to order. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. And we will start out with public comment. I see we have a couple of members of public here. Any comment?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we will proceed. And we'll have a second public comment period toward the end of the meeting, so you get a second chance. So we'll go ahead with the review and approval of the minutes of the August 16th meeting. Commissioners, any comments on the minutes?
I have one typo.
Okay,
Got to get that in there. On page 4, future discussion items. There, I think it's this, I didn't copy it. I think it's the second sentence. Starts out with the, and it should be there. That's the only thing I can find. They're really good minutes.
thank you, Commissioner. Okay,
Let there be no doubt they're being read.
Peggy?
I see
Okay.
that. No, I don't have any
Anything online?
insignificant nor significant.
Okay, thanks. I do have one. Under the stewardship report, and this is not really a correction, but this is talking about the northern pike invasion in the pond at Limekiln. Second paragraph, Justin Spinelli, regional biologist from Washington Fish and Wildlife, provided detailed information regarding northern pike. There was discussion regarding management. I think that that's not quite enough. I think we want to say that will come back to us for a decision on, how do I want to say this? There were several alternatives presented for the eradication of the pike, including draining of the pond. And there was a lot of discussion about that. I think Justin is going to come back to us and we're going to have more discussion about that. Something to that effect was, Tanya, was that muddled enough for you?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. So if there are no more comments, is there?
Question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So on the summary of values of land bank purchases, I think this is really helpful. But
You're talking about the table.
the table, yes,
Yeah.
page 5 of 5.
Okay.
And it says, lays out land bank investment and partner contributions, and that's really helpful. But I was surprised at the appraised value of land bank projects and then the total appraised value of all projects, and that given, I was surprised that that line, I'm a little confused, given partner contributions. Maybe that's irrelevant with that, but anyway, I was surprised that they were as close as they were. So total appraised value of land bank projects is 98.3, and then total appraised value of all projects 109. So what does that include?
All right. So you've added some of these up.
No, it's right, it's, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, second from the bottom. Total appraised value of land bank project 98.3, total appraised value of all projects 109.4.
Okay, I don't know that I'm looking at the same table.
No, I don't think you are.
Okay, so your question is what exactly?
Well, it's, what is it that bumps it up to 109?
Because there, we are also including, projects where we assisted. So for example, the Mitchell Hill project where the National Park bought property from DNR.
Okay.
So that's not something we would be concerned about appraised value under our projects, because we weren't actually party to, we were in the middle of the transaction and facilitated the transaction. But it was separate from
Okay,
what we do. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense. So that total appraised value of all projects includes the 98.3, but then these other ones that we don't have any ownership.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let me just ask those of you who are online, can you hear us okay? Okay, good, thanks. Okay, if there are no more comments on the minutes, by consensus, we'll call the minutes approved. Partner update, we have, as always, faithfully, Vicki Edwards from the San Juan Preservation Trust. Morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Brian, Commissioners, Conservation Land Bank staff. My name is Vicki Edwards. I'm the Conservation Director with the San Juan Preservation Trust. And I have a couple of exciting updates for you all this morning. The first being is that you may have received, if you're on our mailing list, the most recent San Juan Preservation Trust Fall 2024 Island Dispatch. And this was created by our Director of Communications and Outreach, and also has an article in it that was written by Craig Canine, that was our previous Director of Communications and Outreach. And the highlighted article is Better Together, Long Live the Land Bank. And it's a very extensive article. I recommend that if you have not received the hard copy of that, that you check out our website at sjpt.org. And you'll need to click under News and Dispatch, but you can see the entire brochure on our website. Also, the North Shore is showcased as the cover photo. And then there's also a short piece about the Beaverton Marsh Connector Trail opening. And so lots of cross-organizational partnership projects that are being highlighted. And of course, the San Juan Preservation Trust support of the San Juan County Conservation Land Bank and the reauthorization of the real estate excise tax. And then next, I want to share with you all that we are prepped and getting prepped and excited for the North Shore opening on Public Lands Day on September 28th. And just want to thank again, Tanya, for your great coordination with our team and Peter. We will have quite a few folks there, not only staff, but board as well. Barbara Rosencotter, our board president, along with Kathleen Lewis, our director of special projects, will be providing remarks on behalf of the Preservation Trust. I'll be there as well, and other staff and board, and really look forward to seeing you all there to celebrate that monumental success story. And I also wanted to share regarding the North Shore project that Kathleen has received comments. She's our project lead on it. She's received comments from Lincoln and his team on the conservation easement draft. Our next step is to share that with the prosecuting attorney's office and to have our attorney work directly with the San Juan County attorney. And so we're making great progress there, and many thanks to Lincoln and his team for the quick response on getting that back to Kathleen. And that's it for the updates for the San Juan Preservation Trust. Many thanks to you all.
Great. And thanks also to you and all of you at the Trust, Vicki, for your support. And we're going to miss Craig and his good articles. Thanks. Okay. Next, we will have the council update. Council Member Minnie. I see your name there.
I'm here.
She is. Good morning.
Good morning. I couldn't get my finger to unmute. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good
Been
morning.
a long week and I'm really looking forward to the weekend. I am here to report on all things, great at the county because that's my ever faithful job. I will start with some recent council approvals of affordable housing awards. These came from the Very Low Income Housing Fund as well as the Affordable and Supportive Housing Fund. The awards totaled 65,000 roughly, and they went to applicants on Orcas and San Juan Islands. This included an allocation of $30,000 to the local resource centers via the Emergency Rental Assistance Pilot Project. These awards were based on the Housing Advisory Committee recommendations, and all projects received full funding. And as you might have gleaned, there was not Lopez allocations, and that's simply because Lopez organizations did not apply. The county also awarded 5 grants to 5 different already existing affordable housing projects, also located on Orcas and San Juan Islands. And those are to be used for smaller maintenance, construction, or rehabilitation type expenditures. And lastly, this actually happened some time ago, but I think flew a little under the radar, which makes sense. But council did take the final step to formalize the lease with the San Juan Community Home Trust for the development of the Argyle lot across from the land bank office in the town of Friday Harbor, which actually is a really big step forward for that particular project and does allow the Home Trust to continue to bring that project to life. In August, council issued a request to the governor's office for executive relief for incredibly poor ferry service, as we all know. At that time, we were told no, which was not a surprise. The surprise came this past week when the county, in fact, did receive funding, $1 million from the Department of Commerce's Emergency Rapid Response Program. And that is intended to support 3 main initiatives, which are Inter-Island passenger-only water taxi service, and Anacortes San Juan Island passenger-only charter service, and an on-call essential or critical services barge transportation. I don't know how that's all gonna come to bear, but we have $1 million for it. We also received $500,000 from the governor's emergency fund to support increased weekend inter-island service during the winter. So hopefully there's crew out there to be hired. We will see how this all plays out. And I don't mean to actually minimize the award. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And I think there's a lot of work that has to go into how it comes to fruition. And those updates will be provided as we make those plans. San Juan County is conducting a review and revision of the county's Uniform Development Code, also known as Title 18. And this is intended to achieve, hopefully, a more user-friendly development code and streamlined permit review processes, which we all know would be pretty beneficial for us and for the community, and promote consistent standards for development. And the reason I'm telling you this is because community members or frequent users of the code should be encouraged to provide input on their experience with the code and perhaps provisions of the code that they feel should be revised. And there is an email address, though I don't have it off the top of my head. It is on the county website. Staff will be compiling comments from the public through September and presenting to council in October. Tomorrow is the Great Islands cleanup. It starts at 10 and on the 3 big islands, the locations are Jackson Beach and Friday Harbor on San Juan Island, at Lopez Village Park on Lopez Island, and on the village or at the Village Green, on the Village Green at 10 a.m. for Orcas. Oh, well, that's all I have. I thought there was one more thing, but there's not. I hope you all enjoyed the fair. I hope you are all enjoying the turn in the weather. I have mixed feelings about it, but I think my Scottish soul loves the cooler air.
Question?
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead, Peg.
Yes, so the funding that was provided for different aspects of affordable housing, was that coming from the REIT?
No,
Or was that-
these were different pockets of money. One is the very low income housing fund and the other is the affordable and supportive housing fund. And I do believe, if I am speaking correctly, that is the result of document fees.
Commissioners, any more questions for Christine? Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Minnie.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, moving on, we'll have Chair and Commissioners reports.
I'll
Please.
report out.
Go ahead, Peg.
So I was able to walk for a little ways on the new, I believe that's the Red Tail Trail that goes from town Lindy Park out into the marsh. And I was thoroughly impressed. It's beautiful and incredible amount of work must have gone into that, and good job. Really, I love the way it was cited. I mean, it's really well done. So good job on that. I also went out to the proposed site for the Grange out there on the Beaverton property and kind of parked and pulled down, and there was Charlie working away installing the solar panels and system for the well. But so there's not a lot of progress that's happened yet in terms of the ag site, but it was really fun to go out there and take a look and see, and just appreciate all the work that Charlie's doing out there. So there's that. There's one other thing too. Oh, signs. So I was walking out at Watmo, and I was really happy. Everybody knows this is one of my little hot issues. That there was some big red signs that said no hunting on the boundary for the land bank property that goes on the trail. So I hadn't even known where that boundary was, because when you start out from Watmo Bite and you walk up on the trail, it's easy to assume that's land bank, but it's not until you get to a certain big tree. So anyway, so it was a good no hunting sign there, and then there was another one up top near the power line. And so this continues to be a big issue for me, so I've had conversations with Aaron and Lincoln and Tim and talking about next steps for hunting. And they'll probably report out on that, but I appreciate all the support on that. And Amanda, thank you for putting those signs up.
Peg, you've expressed several times some concerns about Lopez Hill too, and public information about hunting. Are you getting those resolved?
We're working on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I would say as a team, we're working on that, and maybe Lincoln or Aaron will report out on
Okay.
that.
You know, I'll just throw that in right now. So Council Member Fuller has convened a meeting for Monday with all the various agency people and the sheriff's office to talk about what happened out there and what we can do to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
Good.
So, I mean, just to follow up a little bit, it seems to me it's partly identifying areas that are open for hunting that are not where the trails are. What a great idea. And then, better signage.
Yeah.
And there's probably more. I mean, our partners need to step up a little bit too.
There was a kind of a kerfuffle that arose on Facebook yesterday afternoon about hunting on Orcas. And of course, there is no hunting on land bank preserves on Orcas. Nevertheless, there was quite a bit of conversation about it, showing that people didn't have the information, and one of the commenters was perspicacious enough to look at the land bank site and provide a link in several places to the information that we do provide about hunting. And hopefully that answered a lot of people's questions, but it occurred to me in looking at that again, that the information that we provide is pretty much for hunters on behalf of hunters. And that's confusing enough because the state's regulations, I mean, there are all kinds of variations. And well, I'm not a hunter, so I know there are different seasons and different types of weapons at different seasons. And there's a reference to the state regulations, but it's really not very clear. But what I realized is that all of this interest that was expressed on Facebook yesterday was not on behalf of hunters, but by people who wanted to hike on trails in the preserves and were afraid of getting shot. So, my thought was maybe we can turn that around and take a look and provide some information from that perspective as well.
Hot topic.
Yeah. Okay, any other commissioner comments?
Well, I'm curious, what Facebook page was that on?
Orcas Island Rant and Rave.
Yeah, rant and rave, yes.
Which one did?
Orcas
Orcas
Island.
rant and rave,
Oh, lovely.
yeah, which is always a good source of rants and raves. Okay, I think that it was pretty much settled, and I mentioned to Lincoln this morning that the good thing that came out of it was, I think a lot of the commenters were not only well informed, but very supportive of the land bank. So it's gratifying to see. Okay. Commissioners online, yes, Mary, Anne Marie.
Sure. I just wanted to pass on a compliment to Charlie from one of our conservation easement ag people who was really thankful for how helpful he is.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay. Either of you online, Anne Marie, Mike, any other comments? Okay, thank you. We're blasting right through it this morning. So we are at the Outreach and Communications Report.
That's me.
Tanya is writing.
Yeah, keeping track of the time. Well, let's see, last night was our last nature prescription event. And it was the most attended, I'd say, probably. It was Nordic walking. So we took advantage of the trail, Red Tail Trail at Beaverton Marsh that connects with the John O. Lindy Community Park. And people learned how to use walking sticks with little rubber booties on the bottom for exercise. So people were so excited, there may be now a Nordic walking club getting started. It was fun. And then Christine shared that we have Great Islands cleanup tomorrow. It's the fall. It's a little smaller of a I'd say as much of a gathering. So they'll do nurdle hunting here at Jackson on Salmon Island. The Exchange will host, as well as on Lopez, which I think will be at not the dump, but I can't think of the name right now.
Take it or leave it.
Thank you. And then we've got a North Shore volunteer tomorrow. There's gonna be, a morning and an afternoon habitat restoration. They're gonna do planting and cleaning up to get prepped for next week's opening at North Shore, and that's 11 to 3 next week. We also have a Know Your Island walk on San Juan Island, which will be at the Beaverton Marsh Preserve over off Halverson. So the trails from last year, Shauna will lead that. That was pretty popular last year, so they asked us to repeat it. And then more volunteer, the calendar. I'm working on the newsletter, our Q3 newsletter, fall newsletter. That'll go out. I'll be on vacation the first couple weeks of October, so I'll schedule that to go out in another week. And we've also sent the informational mailer for the land bank. That we're allowed one informational mailer for the renewal, so that is now at Printonics and should be out in mailboxes, I think, the third week of October. We're all sorted there.
The third week of October?
Yeah, is that right? I think it should drop the 15th.
Oh, okay, so it hasn't been mailed yet.
No, it's just gone,
Okay.
to the printer for formatting and then gets sent off.
All right, good.
Hey,
Question, community conversation.
oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I think, so with everything that's going on, Lincoln and I looked at the calendars and the dates that we have looked at. There's other things happening, League of Women Voter, Zooms, and for the amount of effort that goes into hosting these, and the amount of people that have shown up, we would like to suggest to not host this year. We just haven't had a lot of participation. So that's up for discussion.
Yeah, I was hearing questions about it and, yeah, it was on the calendar, right? And then did you take it off? Yeah.
Well,
there is that
initially, but
conflict
that's-
With,
We had it on the calendar for the 16th,
right, and
which
then we have
is
the league,
the League of Women Voters Orcus candidate forum,
right?
same time.
Yeah, that is a conflict. But I am hearing some interest in making sure that happens, so people have a chance to ask questions and engage. But I don't know across the board on the other islands if people are feeling interested in having that.
Well, I will say that I think if there's ever a time not to drop the community conversations, this is the time. This is the final month before the election. I think we really need to do that. And we have had in the past separate community conversations on each island. That's a lot of work, possibly for little return, but I think that we need to have at least one.
So how do you feel about the repeating or the 16th or a different, date that week?
Not the 16th. I don't think we
It
want.
depends on people's schedules, so do you want me to send in a doodle poll after the meeting and see what nights work?
There's the week of 21st, that whole week. And my calendar looks really good. And isn't that what matters? And it can be done as a Zoom. We've done that and that's.
Yeah.
It would be a Zoom,
Yeah.
yes.
I assume it'll be all
Yeah.
online.
I mean-
Doodle poll sounds good to me,
Mhm.
unless that's probably gonna be hard to decide right now. Anne Marie,
I just think we really have to look at, right now, a lot of our staff are out talking to people. I think, Lincoln, if I'm not incorrect, I think you're coming over to Orcus tonight. Is that right? For a potluck, a community potluck? So I guess I'm kind of, trying to think in terms of what's the best use of time. And I know my calendar is really jammed, and I just don't know how many people would actually even participate in something like this. So I guess if people can do this with minimal work, it might be valuable, but to just have a meeting that only the commissioners are attending, I guess it's kind of, up to the commissioners, but I'm just concerned about how we spend our time and if some of the on-site presentations that are being made are a better use of time. And I just, want to put that out there.
Mike, did you have your hand up? I can only see your shoulder. Okay. Uh,
Is it, can we get feedback from a couple of the people who are attending this meeting who are not commissioners? I'm looking at Tracy and Nancy about whether they think it would be helpful, because we're not, so I know on Orcas, there's a lot of presentations happening, on different venues. That's not happening on Lopez,
Right.
so different access to, Lincoln and information on different islands.
Yep.
So Peggy, this is Tracy, and thanks for asking. I always love the community conversations because it's more of a chance for the public to ask questions and have a conversation that we don't have during the commission meetings. And, but we are hopeful to have on Lopez a meet and greet on the 9th that could take that. It won't involve the land bank, you know, for the election, but that's the intent, is that the committee working on the Renew campaign will be there, and we're going to have the affordable housing folks. And Peggy, you can summarize this as well, but that could take the place for what we see as a need on Lopez. And it just feels like a space that we're also nervous about it, that we can help each other through this nerve-wracking time. But if certainly the in-person meetings, the opening, I'm hopeful to hear about when the Watmouth edition may open, and the North Shore I'm not able to make, but those are the places that you may have better use of staff's time, as was pointed out.
Okay, I see Kathy Morris online, frequent commenter. Kathy, do you have anything to, any opinion on that?
Yeah, I think I am like listening to this and wondering, like, where do I find out about all these potlucks and discussions and things? So as a person that goes around town and sees things, are there signs up? Are they posted on the community bulletin boards or just Facebook? I'm just wondering what is this potluck that's happening tonight that Anne Marie mentioned?
It's tomorrow night, Kathy. That's the West Sound Community Club. And most of these are not land bank events. So we're not responsible for, and I think they are not on our calendar, on our website. So I don't know how they get advertised or noticed. But it's a good point. And to your point, to me, that's one of the things about the community conversation, is that it is a land bank event. We would be the ones to notice it. And you know, my feeling is that if we do it online particularly, and if we advertise it well, it will bring out some people who might not be attending these other events. There is a lot going on right now, and of particular local interest. We have 2 council seats up for grabs. So I would expect that we might, if we have a community conversation, we might have a guest or 2, and we might have some people who might comment either positively or negatively on the land bank that would be information for us. And it would give us an opportunity to answer those questions and comments. So I think we should do it personally. The show is in the can, I think. Lincoln has stuff online and ready to present. You always do a good job of presenting it. So, but I think the better part of it is a forum to be able to hear people and try to answer their questions before the election.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Peg. I'm sorry. I don't see a hand raise icon on my end. So I'd like
Tracy, I
to
can see
say
it.
one more thing if it's in here.
Yeah.
The having all the terrestrial manager groups meet on hunting, I think it's a mistake to not have the public present. And that's still a huge, huge issue on Lopez. And what date was that going to be? And is there any possibility to have some public members that have followed this situation closely be present?
Tracy, that meeting is going to be next Monday, but the purpose of that meeting is for the agency folks and others to plan for a public meeting. So there will be a follow-up public meeting.
So that could be a topic of what the community conversations could summarize to the public, since, excuse me, just a second, I have a phone ringing. But those issues, it was my question earlier as I was listening to everybody is, could there be some thought of what the community conversations topics would cover so that we could weigh in on that piece? If there's really nothing that the land bank wants to be pushing out there, asking the community for, then I would see no reason for that meeting. But specific topics like hunting or, even whatever is the sense of the community. So that's it. Thank you.
I just would add one thing that I appreciate about the community conversation. It's inter-island. I mean, it's all the islands getting input. So it's not just Lopez hearing from Lopez.
Right.
Because we hear from Lopez all the time. So, but I realize it's working for you guys, but I am hearing their support for it.
Well, so I think we could look at the week of the 21st. I will say, it's critical if we're gonna have one of these, that we actually have some attendance. And so us advertising doesn't really do that. The way we get attendance is by people reaching out to their own networks to tell others that this is actually happening. So we've had some decent attendance in the past, when people have sent out emails to their networks or messages, Facebook messages, whatever we can do. So I think that will be an important commitment for everyone to make in advance of that meeting.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so where are we at? Tanya, are you gonna do a Google, Doodle poll?
Sure, I'll send that out today and I'll pick some dates and usually it's 6. I think we start at 6 to 7:30 is generally the time frame to give people a chance to have a little dinner and then be able to join. So I'll send that out for the week of the 21st, some dates. And see
Sounds
how that works for
good,
everyone.
thanks, and maybe with a reminder of what Lincoln just said, for us all to reach out and bring people in.
I mean, that's the thing with the islands, on all the islands, it's word of mouth is always the
Yeah.
best.
And I think the advantage now is we have a very active renewal support group, although it's a little bit different thing and we can't do it ourselves. I think all of those people would be happy to attend.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thanks. I just realized that I skipped something that was under Chair and Commissioners reports, which was talking about our next meeting dates. It's kind of related. So we have upcoming Lopez meeting and an Orcas meeting. Oh yeah, Orcas.
Right, so what we've got on the calendar right now is meeting on Orcas on October 18th. And then on Lopez in November, so that would be November 15th. So let's just start there. All right, does that look good for people? Does that sound reasonable? Excellent.
Yes.
Works for me. So the next thing would be the December meeting, and there are a couple of questions there. We're assuming that that's likely to be our annual retreat, which could be pushed to January if people want to do that instead, but it's fine to do it in December. And I guess the big question is, do we want to have it on the typical third Friday, which is the 20th? Or would the 13th be better? Friday, the 13th is always an auspicious day.
Very auspicious.
I would go with earlier, I think, rather than 5 days before Christmas.
Okay,
I would agree.
so I will reach out to John Howell, who's been our facilitator for many years until our big extravaganza strategic planning meeting last year, and we'll see if we can get on his calendar.
Great. Is that an all day?
Typically, we've done that, it starts early, and wraps up by, say, 2 or so, and it would be on this island. That's my feeling, but to be determined.
Just ask a question, something's occurring to me. We generally have a couple of meetings on each of the other islands this year. But ferry schedule's about to change, and with the uncertainty of the inter-island, that may be problematic for us. I wonder, and I'm just kind of thinking off the top here for your reactions. Would it be better to just continue our regular meetings for those dates here on Friday Harbor and substitute the community conversation for those meetings? What do you think?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Well, in other words, we would, instead of going to Lopez and Orcas, where we typically don't,
I see.
on Lopez, we get good attendance,
Okay.
but
Not an Orcas. Yeah.
so.
Hmm.
We try.
I think people on Lopez in general prefer meetings personally
They'd like us to come to that.
rather than, because
Mhm.
they do seem to come out of the woodwork.
Okay,
Whether you like it or not.
Yes.
yes, they do, and they're always good meetings.
That's
But it's,
interesting.
it's all of these folks who have to come over from Friday Harbor on a very early ferry. So if that works for everybody, we'll continue to do that.
You all make it.
Yeah, we do it.
But not quite that early, no.
Lopez does.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
up.
they do.
Well, and just as a heads up, I have not secured November, location for November on Lopez, but Orcas is currently scheduled to be at the fire hall.
And do you want to do it at the Family Resource Center? Lopez?
That's a great spot. I think I'll just need to check the availability. It depends on calendars.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in favor of in person.
Okay. Good. Okay, so I have one other question, going back to our outreach and activities thing. So the North Beach opening is 1 week from next Sunday. Tanya, what have we got planned?
It's a week from tomorrow,
That's right.
Saturday, so it's the
Saturday.
20th.
Saturday.
Yeah. 11 to 3, we'll have a shuttle like we did when we had the first open house that will pick people up at the Orcas Island High School towards the back where it's student parking. And the first shuttle will be the first shuttle pickup will be at 10:45 and it'll just be a loop. So I estimate every half hour, it'll show up either at North Shore or at the high school. And we'll have a table, the Preservation Trust, as Vicki shared, will be there. Lincoln will have some remarks, and then it'll be Kathleen and Barbara Rosencotter. So that's scheduled for noon, and an opportunity for a tour at 1 and at 2 p.m.
Okay,
Which I'm not sure what those tours will involve yet, but Peter will be there as well as other staff,
Right.
be there the whole
Yeah.
time to answer questions as well.
So we will have speakers and some food of some kind.
Yeah, some nibbles, probably some cookies, like it's been at the other, well, I'm not sure, maybe the other openings, but,
Yeah.
some refreshments, water, maybe soda,
Good.
maybe tea, I don't know, hoping for sun.
Okay, really a celebration.
Very simple. Oh, and Peter also has organized a photo slideshow that he'll post
Yes.
up in the, what I call the barn, I don't know if that's the right term.
Yes, it is.
The shop, thank you, up in the shop. So people will have an opportunity to see, the work that's gone in the last few
Yeah.
years.
That's great.
In only 45 seconds, which I feel is not enough, but wow, he's done a lot, so it's gonna be probably
Well-
pretty fast paced.
There's gonna be more than 45 seconds of that at tomorrow's presentation, I can tell you that.
Good. Yeah, he's done
Yeah.
incredible work.
Well, the important thing is folks will see it on the ground, and I was out there a couple of weeks ago, and it is impressive. I mean, the amount of change over time, and I said to Peter, gotta have a timeline of this stuff before and after, because it's an amazing transformation, and there's gonna be more as it grows up.
Yeah.
It's great. So I still haven't seen notices in well, my local media, the Yorkisonian. I know, Tanya, you have posted something very nicely on the website and sent stuff to Aaron.
Mhm. And you haven't seen it on the Orcasonian yet?
I have not, so
I'd be surprised. I'll double check
I'm-
at the break.
I'm glad
It might
to,
get buried.
I'm glad to call Aaron too.
Well, it's not up to Erin. Erin, so the way the process works.
Yeah.
Erin, as the county communications coordinator, I think that's the correct term. All press releases from any department or any the programs go through her. And then she does basically what I used to do. She has a media list and she just sends it out at once to everyone. And then it's up to the particular media to post.
Sure.
So it's that, it
Yeah.
depends on their timing sometimes, or maybe there's a lot happening and they overlook
Yeah.
it, so. But let's look at the break and see if maybe, sometimes the Orcasonian things, there's a lot of activity right now, it might get buried.
Yeah, that's possible, because things come and go
Oh, yeah,
real
Marie's got it.
fast there.
Brian,
might-
I think we should do some posting of our own and maybe send in a note. You should send in a note to the Orcasonian telling people when it's going to be and where it's going to be and how to get a ride.
Well, I
You know?
agree, that's what I was going to say next, if that notice does not appear. And I think this coming week is the time to do that, to let people know that's this weekend. So if the notice doesn't appear, I'll put something in myself, but Tanya, when you check with Aaron, would you let me know, and if somebody needs to bug Aaron more, I'll do it, or I'll put a
Well, again,
notice
it's
in
not
myself.
Erin, she sent it out,
Yeah.
it's gone to the
She's
Orcasonian,
definitely sent it out.
absolutely.
Okay,
It's more, if you wanna check, it would be then with the media outlet itself.
okay,
Yeah, so we'll look, I've got it up, we'll look at the break
Good.
and see if it's, just not buried somewhere.
Great.
Because Lynn's generally very, quick to get things up as
yeah,
well.
I know. Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay. We're at the break. Where are we?
well,
And-
Lincoln
Yeah.
took a break, but the Watt mount, so we were gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
What do I wanna say? It's been floated, I think, that we could offer a soft opening for
There's
Watt
Amanda.
mount. Oh, there's, Amanda, do you wanna talk about this?
Hi, Amanda.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, hi. We have discussed or kind of put out there that we could open the trail as a soft opening sometime later this fall. One of the delays that we felt we're up against is that we didn't want to have an opening celebration in the middle of hunting season, because the trail into the new preserve goes directly through the BLM lands, which are going to be open for hunting. But as the preserve is getting ready, the trail can be open this winter, this fall and winter. but wondering if it would be better to have an opening celebration in the spring. So that's up for discussion, wondering what commissioners' thoughts are on doing that.
As commissioners, I think.
I like the idea. There is a fair amount of concern about hunting on Lopez after the accident last fall. And this way it could be a real celebration rather than something that you worry about. So I'm in favor of putting it off until after hunting season, and also to give a little more time to get lots of projects done too. There's a lot going on there.
I'll defer to you, Amanda. I guess if we were to have some kind of soft opening, I think it would be confusing to people. Is it open or is it not? So maybe it makes sense to wait.
Amanda, I didn't mean to slight Botnow. In fact, I think, you know, that's really one of our crown jewels, I think, and the opening or celebrating what we've gotten and what you've done so far in some way is really important. And I don't disagree with what's been said. I wonder if there's some other way that we could recognize or celebrate it in this month before the election.
Anne Marie.
I was wondering, should maybe we could let people know why we're not going to open it right now? Or is that like kind of a negative on hunting, you know, like we're not going to open it because it's hunting season, you know? But at the same time, I think it would be good to kind of let people know that we want to open it. We're ready to open it, but timing is important, you know, kind of thing. And I'm just not sure how that message gets crafted so that people have a sense of excitement, but that also they understand that we're really perceptive about your concerns, you know, and we don't want anything to happen to anybody, you know. So I'm not sure how to go about doing it. And if there's some way to let people know that we want to open it, and hunting season goes through December, doesn't it? I think that's what I heard, doesn't it? Yeah.
does.
Okay. I was thinking it's pretty long.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's two pieces to that. In a general update, we have released the management plan for public comment. And kind of all the pieces for grant funding and completing our projects, and some site work are also coming together. So you know, we're just meeting those requirements, and then we will be ready to open. But yeah, there is still some site work that's going to happen before we can open.
Amanda, have you had the public meeting on the plan?
No, it just well, we did a scoping meeting in the spring, and then the plan was just released on Monday.
What are you planning another public meeting?
We did not plan another public meeting. I think we have it listed that we'll talk about it at the October commission meeting, or at least kind of review the comments that we've received.
That's good. Okay. Well, here's another thought. Tanya, I don't know, you were talking about the fall newsletter. I don't know how much of that is written and put together yet. Could we do a feature article on Wattenham?
Sure.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Okay.
Question for you, Amanda. Do you get access to the results of the survey that BLM's doing right now for Watmo?
So it goes through a third party. It actually goes through WSU to have a statistical analysis. And I am unsure if I think they may be completing it this year. There was a question about whether or not they would actually resume it next year to get enough responses. But if they do complete it this year, I don't know exactly when they're going to have the results back. The way that people take the survey is they fill it out and they stick it directly in a metal box. So the person asking for the surveys doesn't see anyone's answers. It's all anonymous, but
Is it online too? Because I filled it out online.
oh yeah, you can also do it online.
So one thing Tim and I were talking about on the way over, if that link to that survey could be posted on Locust Rocks, so you get more
Mhm.
broader input. Because a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be valuable feedback for Land Bank as well.
Yeah, we'd have to ask Bree if that could be part of the survey procedure.
Okay, good. So it sounds like we will talk more about the Watno plan at our October meeting,
Mhm.
which is our August meeting, actually. Maybe we can switch them.
Can we switch 'em?
And I don't know, can we switch them?
Could we do
Any
the
reason why not?
October meeting on Lopez, since Watmo plan would be part of that?
Yeah.
Well, we will, the public comment period closes like, I think
Tracy
2 or
likes it.
3 days before the meeting. So Aaron and I were gonna be able to compile comments that we received like up till the week before. So if you wanted a more comprehensive review, we expect that comments would still be coming in up to like a day or two before the meeting. It would be hard to present them all to you at
Sounds like counting the ballots of a mail-in election stuff. We don't necessarily expect complete results, but why don't we ask staff to think about the efficacy of switching those meetings and having the October meeting on Lopez when we talk about the plan. If it works, great. If it doesn't, so be it.
Right, and if it's too much
I like
for
the
Amanda,
idea.
then
Yeah,
we can wait.
I will make a general comment that most public comments, when received, are within the last
Yeah.
48 hours.
yeah.
But Lopez is unique.
Well,
Maybe they'll all be early.
one advantage of doing it on site is that typically a lot of people come in person to Lopez meetings, so we might hear comments in person. I think that's a good thing. So let's let staff think about that and schedule the meetings the best way possible. Okay, good. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
But at least we will possibly have a meeting on Lopez in October, and we'll have an article on Watno.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So just to be clear, because I'm gonna write that article, what I'm hearing is we're waiting altogether until spring of 2025 for fully opening, not this soft opening, the no public access until the actual official opening. Is that correct?
I think so. Amanda, yeah,
Or more to be revealed?
I think it makes sense. Otherwise, people don't know, is it open, is it not? Soft opening doesn't, that suggests it's open.
Well, how about I'll work on that with Amanda and then I'll send a draft to you all so you'll know.
That's great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Amanda, are you still doing tours?
Yeah, so I had a tour, I believe, last Saturday. It was very well attended. We had a great hike out there. I don't have any more on the calendar, but maybe we'll put one in for October before modern firearm season starts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else on communications and outreach, we're ready for a break. Let's take 10 minutes and come back at 20 to 10.
Right, oh.
We're gonna pick it up again with the stewardship report. And first up, we'll talk about 2 upcoming leases for farm properties. Charlie?
Hello, everyone. So yeah, we're touching back in after a few months of negotiating leases with two different lessees, farmland on San Juan Island, both approximately 40 acres. One is Fraser Homestead Preserve and the other is Beaverton Marsh Preserve. And we're looking at, let's see, I guess kind of take one at a time here. And I'll start with Fraser. So Fraser is out on the south end of San Juan Island and pasture land. It's been grazed and grain grown there and hayed for years. We've had a couple long-term leases in the past, and we're looking for we have a new lessee, the Shepherd family, who wants to continue grazing seasonally as moisture levels allow, and they're a fantastic fit. Just have really good practices, really benefit the pastures out there to have a good rotational operation. Great track record, and yeah, they worked with the conservation district and up in Alaska and here, and so really excited to work with these folks. We've had a short-term agreement while we're sorting out the lease, and they just got a few cattle out there now, refenced the pond and getting the water system up to snuff. So what we're looking for is you guys to consider approval for these leases, and this one, both of them we're asking for 20 years, up to 20-year terms, with 5-year renewal periods. So every 5 years, we'll have a check-in and update the farm plan and make sure we're on track and things are looking good. And that's a period, well, either they could back out whenever they want, but if things are really going downhill, that's an opportunity there. But having a 20-year period is very beneficial for both parties. If things are going well, they can invest in the property and feel secure there, and we can establish that long-term relationship and invest in them, and also it's a lot less work on this end of things too. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one, and would definitely recommend approving it for finalizing, moving down the lane, getting things going. I think I'll go over the Beaverton one too first, and then maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good, John.
So our other property is Beaverton Marsh Preserve off Roach Harbor Road. And again, it's about 40 acres of pasture that's been farmed for 150 years, more or less. And more of that land was farmed historically. There's a lot of extensive marsh, as we all know, that was cleared and used to grow grain down there. There used to be an old big orchard, and yeah, it's been a kind of working farm for generations. In the recent history, it's been mostly grazed and hayed, but we have a very exciting proposal and lessee that's been making some intro steps this summer. So the San Juan Island Grange, where we're sitting now, they want to lease it and have a diverse community operation. So potentially, community garden space, maybe a grange plot to grow food. There might be opportunities for farmers to get established and have a small piece of acreage there. A lot of this will depend on how the water's holding up, and that's one of the bottlenecks for sure. But we have a decent well there, 14 gallons a minute. We're setting up right now on a solar system. But yeah, we'll be watching the water. In addition to that, that would be on a smaller area, the irrigated zones. Also things like food forest, potential perennial plantings. The vision is vast and wonderful, and yeah, I think it's kind of a see where it goes and who wants to be involved. But there'll be a lot of space for grazing and or haying or grain if that's something they want to pursue. So as you can see in the lease, there's a lot of vision there and potential infrastructure that could go in, all very collaboratively and decide what works and what we're willing to, yeah, collaborate on. Let's see, another 20 years, same agreement. Both leases are approximately the same rental rate for unirrigated pasture. And then we have additional, we're gonna watch the meter and charge them a small fee for water usage at the irrigated sites. So that's kind of how we landed on an increased rate for irrigated land. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now and
Okay,
take
thanks,
questions.
Charlie.
Also, Roger's here from the Grange if there's any questions for the lessee. I don't think the Shepherds could make it today.
Okay, I think we have all of our agriculture committee members here today. So, and I assume that you all have worked with Charlie and Lincoln on these leases. Any questions, comments?
I'd like to commend everybody on this. This is a lot of work, and I really especially appreciate the fact that this work is leading off in a new direction with the lease of Beaverton Marsh. It's exciting to get more of the community involved in the agricultural aspects of the land bank. So this is really gonna be fun and a lot of work going forward. I did have one question on the terms of these. Saying they will start sometime soon this year in 2024, so say December 2024. They get renewed in December of 2030. I was adding it up on my fingers and that seemed to be 6 years,
It is
which
6
makes
years.
the entire term with various 5-year additions to 21 years rather than 20. So
So my reasoning, I bumped that up, changed it. Getting it done in this year, somewhat optimistic, so I think starting in the new year, and then I think by my math, that would work out. Versus if we get it done, having 1 month of this year.
Oh, okay.
It's still 6 years.
Is it?
Yeah.
If you include
Okay,
2021.
well, I'll take note, thank you for, yeah,
Yeah, just
That's okay. It's just a little change in the numbers. and
Exactly.
leases.
thank you, Tim.
But other than that, it's great. Nicely done.
Peg.
And I'll echo that, I wanted to say that, but how exciting it is and, grateful I am for the Grange to step up with this proposal, because there's been a lot of discussion, all these agricultural, support agencies and trying to bring something like this to life, and it's, you know, words are cheap, but for somebody to really take it on and give it a try, this is gonna be a great pilot project, and, it could grow. Thank you, Grange.
Peg.
I'll add to that and say, I really appreciate that the opportunity for farmers is really broadened. And it's beyond one landowner or one farmer with the land bank, and that there are multiple benefits that can come from this. And that's really exciting, and it's gonna take a lot of collaboration and coordination. So thank you, Roger. And because I know you kind of led this effort. So I really appreciate that. And I guess I'm curious, have you, has the Grange hired somebody to be, are you gonna be our point person? Or have you taken somebody else in to do
I'll
that?
continue to be the point person until we hire a manager, farm manager. We're trying to get the timing to come on early next year. But the steering committee will continue to be the overall, contact with the land bank, and that would be me. I'll continue to be the point person.
Good.
And people have mentioned collaboration, and I think that's the key word here. And not knowing exactly how it will develop, except through, working with people who need the space and have the ideas and, the process will work out. Grange is going to hold on to this bunting Broncos. Yeah, and ride it.
So another question for you. So I heard that the Shepherds are not gonna be leasing part of that. Is that true? And the part of the reason was because they're not selling locally. So you're, again, the goal being local production, local consumption.
Yeah, well, actually, what happened was, we offered that as long as they sold a certain amount locally, for instance, to the Grange, based on the amount of production they were making on our land. See, we didn't want to dictate what they were doing on all of their parcels, just on the few acres that we were leasing through us or using through us. And I think at that point, they had already made their decision to pull back from grazing at Overmarsh. But the offer is still there. If they want to sit down and talk, I think they would be a terrific addition to our project. And they will continue to be our go-to people about being the experts for grazing. And trying to get advice. So, no, as far as I know, no doors have been closed on that one.
Okay. Mike, anything from you?
Yeah, no, I will only repeat what Ken said. I think this is super that we're doing this thing with the Grange. There's few organizations in our county that could actually pull this off, and the Grange is one of them, and I've got a lot of confidence in them. And I think this is also something that extends our reach for agriculture. It helps expand it. It's a good part of our economy, and I'm glad we're doing it. It also got a lot of facets to it and very time phased. And I would suggest that we put on our meeting calendar, maybe every 6 months, to ask the Grange to come in and give us an update report on what they've accomplished and what they're going to be doing, et cetera, just so that we have a good feel for this particular project, which is more than just really a lease in my mind. So that would be my recommendation. I commend everybody for getting this done. It's pretty exciting.
I think that's actually in the lease agreement, Mike, is, well, an annual report, and if the Grange wants to come in more frequently, welcome anytime.
Yeah, we're open to invitations. Okay.
Oh, and we're giving you an open invitation. I don't think we have to.
I
invite.
like the idea every 6 months. I mean,
Yeah.
is that asking too much?
But no, I think we can pull that off. It gives us a chance to chat and boast a little bit. Thanks for the suggestion, Mike.
It seems
Okay.
like possibly in the spring and fall, when you're planning out the spring planting, and then in the fall, you can see what has happened.
Yeah, we can always change it. I just think I'm excited. I drive by there and I see what's going on, and I'm not sure I understand it because there's no signs and things. So, I think it just would be good for us in the first year or two, at least, to be on top of all the activities.
Okay. Well, I have a question, 2 questions, actually. There is, in both leases, but I'll speak particularly of Overmarsh. There are a number of things that are out there as possible future constructions or additions. So I assume that those would be all negotiated and brought into the commission separately if and as they come up.
Yeah, so this is just kind of an initial, looking at the plan, what could happen and what we might negotiate in the future. It's a lot easier to get it in the lease now than to
Yeah,
come back.
I get that there's a lot of imponderables and improvisation in that one, which is good. Were you gonna say something, Roger?
Yeah, essentially placeholders.
Yeah.
Using words like, well, I won't go into all of the list of possibilities, but my understanding is that at a certain level, staff handles, negotiations over improvements to infrastructure, but then above that, that the board does.
Yeah, I think in terms of capital improvements, if we're gonna spend our money on it, it would come to the board, but that's
That's
fine.
my understanding as well.
Yeah,
And so it's necessarily vague because, well, I think Charlie explained it, important to get the words into the lease so that they don't need to be negotiated, just what the financial arrangements would be. And physical arrangements would be on the ground.
okay. So my other question, particularly about the Grange lease, is there's I think it's kind of a standard boilerplate provision of the leases that prevents subleasing. And I'm not sure I understand how you're gonna work with the various groups, whether they are in fact subleases or something else. So I just wondered how that would work.
And I'll clarify that the language is short, but it essentially says they need permission to sublease. So within that, there's flexibility in how that works.
Okay.
So if they did have somebody that wanted their own agreement and liability and control, they would need to come to us and formalize
Yeah.
a new lease.
Am I right in understanding though that that's the model? I mean, there will be, as I understand, several different groups involved in this. And I don't know whether they're lessees or some other kind of, cooperative participants.
So
Maybe you
I
can
can
clarify
speak to that
that.
a little bit.
Sure.
So the way we're looking at it is if they're under the Grange and they're within their insurance and all those things, and they're happy to work together, then that's still just their project. Yeah, whether it's community garden participants or smaller farmers. And then it'll really be up to them and the farmers might want more security than would be offered just through the lease or through the Grange's lease. So I think a lot of your projects will fall under your model.
And we will have, user agreements with different organizations and farms. And I think I just heard you say that if insurance coverage would be an issue and they might want to have a separate insurance and maybe a separate lease with the land bank, that would be a sublease. Well, not a separate lease, but insurance might be one of the dictating factors.
Yeah, it certainly would be.
So we'll work on that. But for the most part, all the people we've been working with would be under basically a user agreement, Grange.
Okay.
Grange's lease.
Good, thank you. The one other thing that I wanted to say is that there's a little provision in here that says the land bank will work with the lessee on signage. To me, that's a small but significant issue. Because I think that there has been something of an issue with Kaufeld Farm and the recognition of the land bank. So I'll just say right now that I would like the land bank acknowledged in writing on any sign that goes on those.
You want that modified in the language, or
No.
does it read well enough? 'Cause
No,
that would be
I'm just saying that. I think that this needs to be recognized.
Yeah.
Not only as Overmarsh Commons, but also as a land bank agricultural preserve.
Yeah.
I think we need to have that out in front of the public.
Yeah.
That's something we do.
Yeah, and there is more language around marketing and whatnot, whereas when appropriate, vagueness as usual, but the intent is there.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And one other question. So one of the things that I've been curious about is the terraforming and earthwork. Because I was a little bit concerned about that right in the beginning. So I appreciate that the lessee will consult and obtain prior approval. So that's a big one for me, because I think, yeah, I just don't know the extent to which that vision is out there right now for some fairly significant terraforming. Because I think there's a big PR piece to that, in terms of how that might be perceived. And I personally don't really fully understand benefits, pros and cons of that.
And I believe that you and my steering committee are on the same page about that. Concerns about terraforming and, or even what the definition of terraforming is, and recognizing the need that we're going to have to talk with the land bank anytime we do much more than prepare garden beds for planting. So you'll be hearing from us.
There we go. We're all on
And
the same
we're gonna
page.
continue to be cautious until we get a clear understanding of that what terraforming means and how you feel about it.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Does that take care of all the concerns? Good. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Roger, and welcome.
It was just pointed out to me that terraforming is often used in science fiction on other planets.
That is the most common understand kind of sci-fi reader. That's the only meaning I can think of it. If it's used in other contexts, Google and my brain certainly don't.
When you're writing leases, you gotta get creative somehow.
Yeah, there's probably a different word.
So I'd like the board to be assured that we do not plan to make this land terraformed as we would Mars, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very
What is the Grange's, what is the Grange, why is it in there? What does it mean?
We started with a permaculture concept of berms and swales. And thought, okay, that is a change to the general topology of the land. We should probably talk with the land bank about that, and we should probably actually come to an agreement within our own, steering committee about whether that's desirable. We talked to Doug Bullock from Orcus, who's a permaculture specialist, and he said, on your land, maybe you don't need to consider berms and swales. It's just one of those permaculture concepts that could be overused. And so there we are now. We are not pushing for it, but we like the idea of a placeholder, terraforming. And it could mean, pocket ponds, and it could mean drainage, because there are certain areas that might be wetter than others. So that's where we are, terraforming.
So
Thank you.
Sure.
it sounds like there are a lot of things that may be coming back for discussion, at least at a staff level, before 5 years.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, this is Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
Do we typically have the commission approve these formally? Long-term leases like this, is there actually a vote?
On the lease, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do that today?
That is this, this is listed on the agenda as an action item. So if there are no more comments and we're ready, I will take a motion for approval of, can we do the two leases together? Any reason why not? Fine.
So moved.
Thank you, Anne Marie, and she's not even on the Ag Committee.
I will
Do
second
we
that.
have, we have a second. All right, all in favor of approving, of approval of the two leases? One for Overmarsh Commons and the other, what are we calling the other? I'm sorry, Fraser. Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Two leases are approved. Thank you.
I am assuming that it's with the
With
very
date
slight
modification, yep.
change of
Yeah. Got it.
one digit or something for the term.
What does that mean? We're gonna say 6 years and 21 years?
Nope, I'll just make it 20, back to the 20 years, make those numbers fit. So Instead
We'll
of
just change-
2030, it
we'll
will be
change the dates
2029.
To be correct, so. it's
That
5
would
years
mean
and
that
20 years.
the lease wouldn't go into effect until December a year from now.
Huh?
That doesn't work.
I'm just gonna
No.
change the
Short with the
2030 to
time.
2029.
Oh, 2020. Okay.
Yes.
I thought you were trying to do an even year.
No, that'd be nice, but
I personally don't really care.
yeah, no,
Okay,
The Grange would accept that.
all right,
Yeah.
all right, deal.
Okay.
Good
okay,
work, everybody.
done.
Yeah, so I will take these, to council, since that is requirement.
Great.
And we'll, get them done by the end of the year.
So a bit more, the Grange will need to have their, state Grange, is that correct?
State Grange got the preliminary one that you and I worked on just a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
And met last night and unanimously accepted
great.
that we can go ahead with this lease.
Wow.
So I'm very pleased with that.
And then I think we need to have John, legal review before we send it to council.
Oh, that hasn't been done?
No, first we get to this stage and then the final signature to the lessee and Lincoln.
I had assumed that our lease forms were boilerplate at this point, because they're so
Yeah.
much the same.
They start
So I assume
boilerplate,
they
but
were-
then,
were
you know,
approved.
you customize. and-
Okay.
So,
Everything that goes to council like that gets approved to form from our office.
Okay.
And from the Grange's procedure, it's going to be presented to the Grange membership at the next meeting, which is October 2nd. And it'll be ratified that night and signed. So that's our date. The first Wednesday in October.
Great.
And we'll be
Okay.
happy to do it. Any problems with that scheduling?
did you say signed?
Yeah, our.
We
If
will,
we have your sign.
yeah, if we're there by then, it might, we'll see how it gets
Oh,
through
it
legal
will be just
review and, yeah.
Permission to sign then
Oh, yes.
from the Grange.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right, done. Thank you, Charlie.
Any more questions
And
for the
Ag
Grange?
committee.
Good job.
Okay, I can take off.
Yep.
Go do some farming.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, next up, we have a proposal from the county for a wetland mitigation project at our Bald Bay Creek Preserve. And you all have an extensive consultant report on what's supposed to happen, and also a copy of our wetland mitigation policy, which in this case has been ignored. So is somebody gonna present this?
I will take a stab at a brief presentation of this. If you end up having a lot of questions, we may need to get the consultant or public works folks here. I don't think that it's critical that you approve this at this meeting, but you may be okay with it. In any case, so what's happening here is Public Works is doing work on Baylor Hill Road. And that will involve basically widening the shoulders and doing some other work. And by necessity, that's going to impact wetland areas by the side of the road. So they require, Department of Ecology requires them to do wetland mitigation to offset that. And we've been talking about this with them for some time. They don't really have any great options outside of coming to us. But this is I think increasingly a problem, with wetland mitigation. That it seems like the standards are definitely tightening. This has not happened yet, but certainly we're hearing some things from the Department of Ecology about a preference for conserving additional wetlands rather than mitigating degraded wetlands or restoring degraded wetlands. But that's the option that's open to them at this point. There really isn't any other property they can purchase. And so they're hoping to use the preserve to do that. I think this is a relatively, frankly, minor thing for us in that we've been restoring the riparian areas of both of these creeks, and I think this is kind of the key map was whatever, page 113 in your document. And so what they're proposing basically is to do a 1.5 acre mitigation area on False Bay Creek and do additional plantings to complement what we've already got out there. And take on the responsibility for maintaining those plantings. That's in a nutshell what's being advanced here.
Question.
So, yes.
I'm just curious as to how much flooding actually occurs there and if this really needs to be done. And I just I'm concerned about if there's not another alternative to building up the road, because this is just like we continue to do this over and over again. And it's like, I mean, I see it all over our county and, you know, all over everywhere, but it's like you keep doing the same thing and you're not changing the result. So why do you keep doing the same thing? Maybe, is there another option here? Maybe the road should just be closed when it floods. I'm just asking the question.
Well, you can ask. We don't really have any control over how those things work with the Public Works Department and other parts of the county. So they've made the request of us, understood that yes, sometimes it seems like maybe there should be other alternatives pursued. This is, I will add, you know, critical connector between the west side of the island and the rest of the island. So keeping it open, I think, is a high priority, regardless of flooding. The flooding is quite variable. In some years, we've seen our preserve mostly flooded. And so we've had some concerns raised about grazing on that property and the effect on water quality. So we've actually, we ended that lease anticipating that there was going to be some kind of restoration project potentially happening. That's all still kind of an open question, honestly. But in other years, the flooding is much less. Just depends on how bad it is.
And does this touch the Doran property at all, the San Juan Preservation Trust area? That's the estate?
No, it does not. The Dorans did actually own this property at one point. It is encumbered with a Preservation Trust conservation easement. They decided to sell after going through an episode of having one of their folks who were working on the property deciding to quote, clean the ditch, which resulted in a Department of Ecology violation notice. So they in turn decided maybe they weren't terribly interested in continuing to own this property. So we got it for a discount. And that period's long since passed. There's I think 8-year requirement for monitoring of mitigation for violation. And I think we purchased this property back in, I don't know, 2008, something like that. So it's long, that's long since passed, but we've been continuing to restore the riparian area.
So in effect, by tying into this, we would have more money to do further restoration. Is that what they're proposing to do in terms of restoration, is that above and beyond what we've already got in place? Is it necessary? Is it appropriate?
Well, I think it's appropriate on the site because of how wet it can be. And we're just basically expanding the riparian buffer area. So I don't see any huge issues here other than the fundamental problem that we're going to face down the road for sure, which is the idea that we should really be trying first to conserve unprotected wetlands and ensure a no net loss rather than restoring degraded wetlands. So and I've talked to Jessica Hudson about that. I told her about this project and, you know, we're pretty far down the road with this one, but in the future, it was going to be harder and harder to take this course. And so, and our policy lays it out pretty clearly what the preferences are. It may be that the county would want to pursue purchasing some property as a mitigation area. That's a larger discussion.
Right, but then the parameters of as a mitigation site, a larger mitigation site has to be, the impacts are within that same basin, basically, right?
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So I have two questions about this. The first isn't really a question, but the consultant's report, that long consultant's report that we got is basically the background material for an application for multiple permits. So that hasn't gone to the agencies yet, I assume, and they don't have mitigation requirements. So all of this could change, I assume.
I'll have to check on the status of that.
Yeah, okay. So I guess that means we might approve this in concept today or not, but there's no, we can't be sure what exactly we're approving until Public Works gets a permit for that.
Right.
Okay.
I'll check in with Public Works to see
Okay.
exactly where they are.
Good, thank you. The second thing is, well, let's see. Oh, I know. The proposal is for the county or its consultants to maintain, to work on the restoration and maintain the mitigation area for a period of 5 years. Is that reasonable from our point of view? And I'm thinking that I think that we were involved in maintaining the mitigation on Orcas at Terrell Beach for much longer than that time. So does that leave us holding the bag at some point?
Yeah,
when we don't
that's a
have to?
good question.
Mhm.
We can go back and request an extension of that.
Okay. Yeah, whatever is reasonable.
I agree with that.
It should be linked to performance standards, that if it's, you know, they need to maintain it until it achieves whatever is, you know, is supposed to be achieved.
Well, until I think the standard or the trigger, I suppose, would be a sign off from the permitting agencies.
Well, I think that's part of our requirements within the policy is that we enter into an agreement with Public Works about
Yeah.
our standards. Because part of the constant upgrades in mitigation policy is because they're often found to
Yeah.
be inadequate.
Okay.
Right, so those
But you see, the point here is that we don't have a policy. It's not being recognized by the county.
Well, we have a policy.
We do have a policy, but the county is not recognizing it by this very,
Well, I think we just have work to do on doing an agreement,
Yeah.
that meets our requirements. Right?
well, that kind of leads to the other question that I was gonna ask is, we have a policy, but I'm not clear that the policy defines a process. So how through the policy do we get to an agreement with the county or whoever wants to do a mitigation? Is that supposed to result in a formal legal agreement?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's something that I think we didn't consider when we approved the policy, but we definitely need to. So I think the question is, do we have a sign off for this at all? Or do we need to update the policy to require a sign off before the county or whoever wants to mitigate does this?
I have a comment on that, and I apologize if this was already touched on when I just stepped out to chat with Roger. But this action is not an amendment plan. That is the guiding document that council approves for what we do for actions on the property. So if that action is not approved in there, there has to be some other level of sign off that's seen in the process sense from what you're doing. Otherwise, what we're looking at is another department coming in and telling us what's going to happen on a land bank reserve. The precedence for that, to me, is very bad.
Yes, especially roads.
So I have to admit, I did not read through the entire wetland report. And the maps I found really confusing, partly because it was just really hard to get a sense of context, but you know it on the ground. Are there other options for public works that you think would be viable options instead of using our property?
For their mitigations. I don't know the answer to that. I've not given that any.
No, I don't know of any. I think it's also important to understand that when Public Works is doing projects like this, doing road improvement projects, they do have condemnation authority. So the reality is we have limited control here.
Come on in. Are you coming in or not? No?
That's just,
Wow, that would be an interesting step for them to take.
well,
We would hope we don't come to that.
yeah, and they don't want it to come to that. They want it to be an agreement, but realistically, they have the ability to do that. And if it, if this is their best, if they think this is their best option, they can proceed with it. So I think they're moving, in, well, relatively good faith. I don't know what else to tell you.
So one of the bargaining points is money. And how do we determine how much? Because they will contribute towards, they will pay the costs.
Right.
So that's a piece of it.
They will do the action, but they don't pay us money directly, isn't that right?
I don't know.
They're not paying us, no, for this, they are paying us at the road's edge for a temporary easement because they need that in order to do their operation.
I'm just concerned that on Orcas, the road projects have not had, if they've had public support, they've turned into real horror shows. And people get really worked up about it. And I hate to see us being drawn into this and not having all of our items lined up where we've heard from ecology and we've heard from these other people. And I'm kind of speechless that they're moving forward with stuff and they haven't cleared it all with us. Or I don't know, is the sustainability and climate crowd are they at the table in these conversations? When I mean, I'm just trying to understand how the government, our San Juan County government, is interacting together to try to, make solutions that are reasonable and, hold up. And I'm baffled. So I'm sorry, but I'm not prepared to vote on this today. I would like to know what some other, departments think, especially Department of Ecology.
As I see it, well, little bit of background, this wasn't the flooding and the talk about changing the road. I remember it from the 2010s. It's been going on a very long time because the flooding occasionally gets kind of incredible out there. The culvert is not big enough. On the other hand, it doesn't sound like they are willing or able to enlarge the culvert. So they're trying for the next best thing to make it a little more stable and make the road survive one of the next big floods. My understanding for the part of the process is after it's installed, there is a period of 5 years where they are held to standards, the installer is held to standards of viability and durability. After that, there are monitoring reporting requirements, and that's the part that concerns me, but I don't foresee the land bank paying for the installation or anything. But who does the monitoring and reporting after that?
That's after the 5 years, Tim?
Yes, and I think it's in perpetuity, basically.
Yeah.
So that's a significant, over the years, a significant amount of staff time that it seems the land bank should be compensated for. I wonder also, and I'm sure they've gone over this, there are degraded sections of the water course south of here, which they even mention in the report. But it doesn't sound like those are an option. The other place to look would be upstream of the land bank properties, but that's largely private property covered by conservation easements often. So I'm sure those things would be nice to get acknowledgement of that they have looked at this, and this is the land bank property is the only option.
Lincoln, what are we actually being asked to do here today?
Well, the commission should approve moving forward with this plan. That's basically it.
That's what we're being asked to do.
Yes, under our policy, that's what we want. The policy requires the commission to sign off on this, basically.
And we're being asked to do that by Public Works?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a proposal, and I'll just put that out for as a suggestion for commission discussion. But it seems to me there are several issues with this. I agree with what Lincoln said. This thing is pretty far down the road, and it's only just now coming to us as a commission. So the horse is sort of out of the barn. As Lincoln says, there are not many alternatives for Public Works right now. And I personally don't think that this is, the time to, try to put our foot down on the brake and make a big deal of it. However, we should, be clear on what we're getting. Certainly, the point that you brought up, Tim, about the extent of the mitigation and compliance and whatever responsibilities we might take on it. I would only be prepared to approve this if we send, along with our approval, a letter to the county and a copy of our wetlands policy and say, this is the last time that you ask us to mitigate on land bank land. We expect that to happen now. Lincoln and I talked about this the other day. And as he said, he spoke to Jessica Hudson about it, who's brand new as our county manager, and I'm sure has a lot on her plate. I think we need to put something in writing on the record that says, this is our policy, we expect you to do it. And then we have some homework to do, which is to figure out and set forth an implementation path for our policy. What kind of sign off are we going to expect in the future from the county? We need to have, more than, yes, I approve this. We need to have a legal agreement. And so I think that's our homework for the next year. So any comments on that?
I would definitely agree, even in the present policy, they talk about a contingency fund being established and payment being offered for the further work. So if we have a policy, it seems they should follow it if we are going to agree with this personal opinion.
So we could incorporate that as well into our approval of this. I agree.
So one of the points in our policy, which I worked on, but I've forgotten a lot of the details, provides compensation for the loss in fair market value of the property resulting from the title encumbrance. Do we anticipate that? How does that actually play out for us? Would there be so here we have the false faith property, it's protected, we own it. So if there's an additional encumbrance, tell me how that would work out and how would that be determined?
I think you're talking about minimal amounts, basically, because the property is, it's encumbered with a conservation easement, that's a forever law conservation easement. And Public Works has checked in with the Preservation Trust to make sure this conforms to their easement, which it does.
Okay.
So if you're talking about putting, another 1.5 acres into a mitigation area and not being able to do something with it, it's really.
No impact. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of a moot point on this one.
Yeah.
And then in terms of determining like compensation for land bank staff time, and the contingency fund, how are they receptive to us coming forward with a proposed value for that? Or cost?
Oh, well, I'll have to go back to them and talk to them. Okay.
It does seem like that might be part of the cost of the whole project, so incorporated into the budget. Of the project.
I wonder if one possibility for doing that would be a bond. Performance bond.
I don't know how that works.
Well, I don't know whether this county does that, but it's commonly used with construction projects where basically, they don't have the cash, they set aside cash, but they bond it with a bank or bonding agency that says, we will hold, $20,000, let's say, payable to the land bank. If performance fails, and the land bank incurs costs, that's, account will pay for that. So nobody's paying cash. I don't know whether that's a practice here, but it's one way to do that without anybody, actually putting up cash.
I don't know if we can do that in that context, but yes, contracting, we can.
Anybody prepared to make a motion?
Well, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it would be good for me to go back and check in on these things and where they are with the permitting.
Okay.
And talk to them about monitoring and reporting requirements, et cetera. And come back to you at the next meeting with that before asking you to take action.
Okay.
That'd be helpful. It's a test.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's a test.
Okay, to be continued. So we have,
Anything else for stewardship?
yeah, I was gonna ask Doug if he wants to make some comments, or Eliza,
I wouldn't too.
or Aaron.
I think it's all in the report for me.
Yeah, I mentioned at the break, that we didn't get a stewardship report really in from the San Juan this month. We had people out. I've had some family health issues stuff going on, so we have had a really jumbled schedule. So to give you a couple of quick little things here. I guess one thing I do want to talk about with that is people have been working really hard, and one issue related to that in our capacity is both Shauna and Jacob ended up having repetitive stress injuries this year, I think, from just trying to keep up with all the stuff we got going on. So that's kind of impacting in the end some of our capacity, and we've been a little behind getting into more maintenance related things this fall. So a lot of the work right now seems to be kind of playing catch up. Shauna's been away this week at a Washington Department of Natural Resources certified burner program. You may recall Andrew did this previously, and basically this is a newer program that's being offered from the state to facilitate more conservation type burns happening. It's enabling a little bit more flexibility than just getting a normal burn permit and doing pile burns, to have some level in between kind of a full burn boss, full prescribed fire program. So very excited that Shauna's doing that. I know Jacob has interested in it as well. So that's going to add a lot of capacity to our programs moving forward, in partnership with, I think, what's happening with particularly land conservation board. So really great. You might have noticed it was kind of a wet year, and one of the interesting things from that, we have been doing mowing, as I think was described in a memo that went out about hunting, at Beaverton Marsh every year. There's been 2 spots for hunting, and then areas we've been mowing to support waterfowl, as well as to kind of attempting to do some restoration maintenance areas in the bog area. And we were unable to mow most of those sites this year. It was too wet. We had around 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in August, and that was enough to saturate everything out there. In lieu of that, kind of using some of that same budget, we're just trying to set up the Parker Lawson, who's been doing the mowing, out to help do some prep for the restoration planting work that we'll be doing at Falls Bay Creek on the Zilster Lake Reserve property below the lower dam. He will probably be out there Saturday to start getting some of that area mowed, just to really facilitate our access there. So I think, yeah, a lot of the other things are maintenance-y. One thing I wanted to mention is for not really our outreach, but an event happening this weekend on Orcas. There's a fall celebration at Family Tides Farm. And some folks that are part of the co-stewardship subgroup of the subcommittee of the Stewardship Network of the San Juans are helping coordinate that event. And it's going to feature some speakers and some dancers from the Lummi Nation there. And I understand that a few folks will be present as well. Al Scott Johnny, who's kind of the head of their natural resources side of things, as well as the involvement in the cultural department. So if anybody is on Orcas and has the ability to get to that event, I think it's really could be a good opportunity just to meet people and make some connections and build some relationships. And I understand that this kind of same core people, and this is Megan Harold from the Trust and Jamie Beecham, are organizing another event on Orcas in collaboration with the Coast Salish Youth Coalition. That's going to be sometime in the middle of October that may involve an event at Cascade Creek. It's maybe similar to what had happened before, doing some camas seating, and then they're also hoping to have a more informal meal time to just basically, again, facilitate relationship building and whatnot. The dates for that were rough, were between October 10th and the 15th.
Doug, who's the group that's sponsoring the event this weekend?
I'm unclear on that.
So was I.
I think it's a private family.
What's that?
I think it's a private family.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Family Tides,
Yeah.
is that what it's called? Yeah. Yeah, that's private.
Oh, okay.
But it came out in a newsletter from,
Yeah, I've seen a couple of, I mean, it's been fairly well advertised, but it was all new to me. I didn't recognize the name at all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like I say, I know that Megan Harold and Jamie Beecham been kind of central in helping organize.
It's the Beachy family.
Ah,
And they're very active in the community here, and they're active in the community with the tribal nations.
okay. Thanks, Anne Marie. I have one other comment, Doug. If we are thinking about getting into any kind of a prescribed burn program, I think we need to have a conversation about that. Maybe the retreat would be a good time to do it, because that's a big deal. A lot of resources, a lot of people, a lot of expense, and also some risk. So I'd like to know, who we're gonna collaborate with and.
Yeah, happy to do that. I would say that we already do. We do pile burning every year, which is a prescriptive burn.
Yeah.
We've done some very, very small broadcast burns, and right now we have a DNR funded grant that the Island Conservation Corps Conservation District secured to do 3 micro burns at Mount Grant. We're going to be something in the neighborhood of like 1,000 square feet each to kind of look at burning at different times of year, get results from that as so I think we already are engaged in some areas, and there's potential for some growth. I don't think it's anything that we're going to be jumping into large scale broadcast burns. I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. There's a lot of questions about how to go about that. We should do it.
Well, it's a good topic, and very interesting. So I'd like to, I'd like to see that as a future, maybe a retreat topic.
Yeah, great.
Well, I would like to dovetail a little bit on wildfire. So there's a community wildfire protection plan update. There's a steering committee associated with that. And there's several public meetings coming out, and I don't know how this relates to the dates, but this will be shared more. Lopez, it's October 14th. Orcas, October 15th, San Juan, October 16th. These will be 5:30 to 7. Fire chiefs, fire professionals present. It's to just an entry initiation for the public to get briefed on what is wildfire activity, what's it been, what are resources available, and then what the update of the plan entails. So, yesterday I was out with Megan Howard from the trust, Blakely. So conservation easements have kicked off a bit. And then also wanted to share that I stopped by North Shore on the way back. And even since I think I was out there a week ago, it's remarkable amount of change, and progress. And also that management plan is under internal review, and Amanda already shared that the Watmow is out for public, so, yeah. Good at that.
Great, thanks, Erin.
Yeah, there is a lot of community engagement around wildfire and
That's good. Everybody's concerned. Eliza, anything from you?
I don't think so. I think it's in the report, but we're, I mean, the big thing for the next week or so is the, our once annual, native wildflower sale is underway, and this is the public's kind of easiest opportunity to acquire plants from the Salish Seeds Project. There are other ways, but this is the most, accessible. And so, we'll be assembling orders and getting them to various islands in the next couple weeks. And, yeah, everything seems to be on track. I'll just say it's been a nice late summer and fall at the Salish Seeds Nursery because it's been such a relatively cool and moist late summer. It's just been delightful. So the plants have fared very well. Our increasingly warm, dry summers are pretty stressful for tiny plants, even though they are native.
And,
Yeah,
and
so-
you have a new wildflower garden, or have had this year at our office.
Oh yeah, it's actually a couple of years going,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah.
Is it a couple, is it that?
Yeah,
Okay.
It didn't look like much the first.
Yeah, right.
I can talk about native plants a lot, but they're slow to grow. They invest in root growth for the first couple of years before they do much above ground, most of them. So people's expectations are sometimes different. They're used to.
And your new
Yeah,
guy,
so you gotta be patient, but it was lovely this year. It'll be better next year too.
great. And I just want to say that your new guide is great, and I hope it's getting out to a lot of people. I think it'll be really popular.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
How do we have access to that? Is
It's
that-
online, it's in our
Okay.
office. Did you bring any time? Could,
Probably paper copies
There were
too.
none in my pre-prep. No, the answer is no, I don't have.
Stop by the office, or actually I've been needing to get a stack to Orcas and Lopez.
We should read them in like dentists and doctors' offices.
We only printed 300, so.
Yeah, for whatever meetings and events
Yeah.
that we do, it'd be great to have copies to hand out if we have enough.
Yeah, oh, no, that's the point of them.
Okay.
They're online, but it can be really nice.
That's
to have
a great
have a
giveaway, I
database.
think. Super, okay. Last but not least, director's report.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of things, really. The RCO grants for Lot Mount Head are proceeding. We've got our appraisals. So I'm hoping we can get the process starting to wrap up. And hopefully by the end of the year, actually get paid. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that. The other things, I'm not gonna get too much into forthcoming projects. I will say that, we do have a couple of things going. One is, on Fraser Homestead Preserve, in addition to doing a lease, we have 6 parcels there. The southern 2 parcels, the National Park has been very interested in because It seems like, I don't think there's any real confirmation, but seems like, Lyman Cutler's cabin was actually on that property, which is where the pig was shot, which is where the story all began. So I was out there with, their appraisers. They are moving forward with, wanting to acquire those 2 lots. When we purchased this property, there was, a reservation made, that the Land Bank Commission might sell to the park or even sell to a private buyer with a conservation easement. So this is actually coming to fruition, by resale of those 2 lots to the Park Service. So you'll be hearing more about that. I have no idea when that might actually happen. We have another resale that we do need to move forward on also, which is near the False Bay Creek property. There's a 10-acre parcel, which we bought with the intention of reselling, with a no-build conservation easement on it. And we've had an appraisal done. That one's just been kind of stuck on my plate. But if you're gonna go forward with the resale, on Fraser, it would make sense to try and queue this one up as well. It's pretty straightforward. It's farmland and it's been farmed, and it's time for us not to own it, basically. But we'll continue to monitor it as a conservation easement.
Can you give me a little, maybe I should know, but a little better description of where it is?
Yeah, it's just east of False Bay Creek Preserve on Baylor Hill Road.
So
It's not,
10 acres
it's
of-
not connected. There's a 20-acre parcel between the preserve and this other property.
So if someone were to buy it, it would be just for agricultural use. Is there a neighboring farmer? who might-
Yes,
Okay, okay.
more than one,
Hmm,
but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And I don't think I have anything more as it, yes, I have been going around giving a lot of presentations. So far since our last meeting, I did Kiwanis, Friday Harbor, Stir Optimus, I did just last Wednesday. I've done one for the Caldwell Banker San Juan office. And I'm doing one for Windermere next week, and also the Mullis Center in the next couple of weeks.
All on San Juan.
All on San Juan, but I just got invited to another thing. Love that.
So exciting.
Okay, yeah.
He always has a great time.
We all do.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Lincoln. Okay, I will now open it up for our second public comment period. See a couple of members of the public here. Any comments? I guess not. Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Finally.
Oh,
Did
there's
I miss
Tracy.
something?
Nope.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, only I'm here just to say I appreciate being able to listen in, and I do like the idea of moving the Land Bank Commissioner meeting to October on Lopez, but that's only my personal choice. And thanks for all the reports and all your support. And Brian, I want to give a shout out to you for multiple meetings where you definitely brought up your concern on the Renew campaign and not having anything contentious come to the fore ahead of time. So I really appreciate you enough that I'd almost send you a personal note, but here it is in person during the public meeting.
All right,
So-
thank you, Tracy.
Bye.
Always good to see you online and all of you, almost as good as seeing you in person. Thank you all. Okay, finally, future agenda items.
one thing I would love to touch in, and Aaron and I've talked about it a little bit, is tribal relations, tribal connections, how that's moving ahead.
Would
For
it,
the county. For the county.
yeah, would it be good for us to invite Frankie to come and talk with us? You think?
Do that?
That might be good. We could do that either at one of our upcoming meetings or perhaps at the retreat. Why don't we leave that to you? Lincoln?
All right, sounds good.
Okay, any others? Online? Okay, two things that I would note. Doug, I don't think you were here when we talked about the minutes from last meeting. But at some point, we're going to have, and I'm blanking on his name, but the gentleman from Fish and Wildlife come back and continue the discussion on Northern Pike and our alternatives.
Yeah, I reached out to him in advance of this meeting and didn't get a response, just to
Okay.
check in and see sort of where things sit.
Well, I don't know what their timeline is, although I don't remember whether we had written off action this year. Certainly, we're not gonna drain the pond this year.
They won't be able to achieve that,
Yeah.
if, they're going to go through that outreach, it's sort of out of his hands into his managers and their process for doing community outreach, which,
Yeah.
he had said that it was, the earliest that probably would be able to happen would be like November, December, that they would be able to do a community
Right.
meeting, and he wasn't certain if that
Okay,
would happen in that timeline.
so again, some future meeting that'll be coming back to us. And then the other that we just talked about today is the mitigation project. Thinking it'll bring back some answers, some more information for us. Anything else? For the good of the order? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.